So I'm going to be putting these things up online because, as you can see, we've invited a lot of empty chairs here, and that means people aren't here. And where are these people? These people are assuming they're going to take the class at home. Now, I want to caution all of you against that, those watching this video, because the tendency is for the students who do it strictly from home to not do as well as those who come to class. You will learn a lot more by being here than by not being here. Does that make sense to you? That's a pretty easy concept. Why is that? Well, your attention is on me and not on whatever else is going on in your place. You don't have a pause button with me. You can't turn me on and just walk away. I mean, you can, but less likely to do so in person, right? So if you want to succeed, I think your best bet is to be here. If you want to be here, those of you who are here today, want to come on Thursday as well, please do. Now, it usually is the case that one day has more students than the other, but I know how they say half y'all are going to come on Tuesday, half y'all are going to come on Thursday, right? Tuesday. Tendency is, we have a class like this where half the class that's supposed to be here is not here. And the same will be true on Thursday. There may be more on Thursday, there may be less on Thursday. Doubt there'll be less. But the tendency is for it to be roughly around the same, so that you are more than welcome to come on both days to maximize your learning and college experience. Okay? And I encourage that because I want to see you do well. So, without further ado, let's talk a little bit about where we are in the semester. We spent the first 2 weeks online, and it's really hard for me to assess where you are because I don't even know who you are yet. And so this is, I'm Dr. Holzer. You've seen me on the video. You have watched the videos? Some of them? Part of some of them? Okay. Interesting at all? That's cool, right? Philosophy is more interesting when I teach it. So. Well, so we're talking about U.S. and Texas government. And very important because we are all citizens of several governments. We're citizens of the United States of America. We are citizens of the Texas, the great state of Texas. I live in Houston. I think you do too, correct? There are some of you may not live in Houston. Some of you may live inside of Houston, but not in Houston. Like I used to live in West University Place, which is a city that's surrounded by Houston. Okay, but it's its own city. I couldn't vote in Houston politics. I could vote. I had my own mayor. We had our own streets, and they weren't as bad as the rest of Houston's. Okay. Then you have different body politics to which you belong. You might belong to your church, and that too has a government. And you'll notice that there are certain things about each government that are true. What's true of one government is going to be true of other governments. Okay? And so as we've learned so far in this class, or has been taught, you have a group of people coming from across the sea to live in America, and when they get here, they're not exactly, whoa, everything's great. They're kind of scared. Why would you be scared? Well, you're coming to a place with no buildings, no electricity. They didn't have it back then anyway. No source of revenue over there. There's no jobs. There's nothing but raw material. And they have to set themselves up and colonize the place, meaning they've got to build their own buildings, their own homes. They got to now grow their own food. They've got to govern themselves and ask, how should we live amongst each other and how shall we rule each other now that we are not in England? By what rules do we govern ourselves? Now, they could have said forget you guys. We don't need any of you. But why did they decide on this compact they call the Mayflower Compact? Had everything to do with what? Mutual survival. Okay. Now I don't know if they're still making it now. It was so popular 20 years ago. The show Survivor. They dropped these people off on an island or somewhere. My buddies worked on it. You know, I lived in LA, and I remember meeting somebody from the cast of it. One of the villains. They always had a villain, and her name was Jerry, I think it was. She was a wannabe actress. They all were, okay? And so anyway, the point is, they put them out there, and these guys, like, of course, they got a camera crew and everything, so they kind of got a lifeline. But they got to, you know, learn how to start fires and feed themselves, and these people tend to lose a lot of weight, you know, because, you know, they're not eating at, you know, McDonald's or Jerry's Deli down the street, you know, anymore now. So, but I'm at that's just for a little bit of time. You could drop out, go back to civilization, lose the contest. Who cares? Give it up. But not with these guys. They got here. And when they got here, they had to deal with it, okay? And they asked, how do we govern ourselves? You govern yourself on every day. So America, we have to talk about certain principles upon which our government is founded, because, you know, as the time goes on, at that point they were English colonies, and as time goes on, we're going to have this thing called the Declaration of Independence. Now, the Declaration of Independence is largely driven by philosophy. Okay, there are some deep-seated religious beliefs in America by Americans, but philosophy, certain philosophical movements are the catalyst for the change of the attitudes of the Americans, which resulted in the demanding of independence. So John Locke, who wrote 2 treatises of government, writes about the natural law. Now, we talked about the natural law, correct? Mm-hmm. And these things called the laws of nature. That man has a nature. And what does it mean to have a nature? Well, Aristotle, you know, the easiest way to talk about that is, you know, this concept from Aristotle is a whatness. And what makes you and you the same? You're both human. Well, what is that? What is humanness or humanity, right? Cows have cowness. And so we go, well, what is it about man? What are we designed for? What is the eye designed for? It's designed to what? See, correct?
Yeah.
Shout it out. What are the ears for? To hear. All right, hands are to grab, right? And we look at the purpose and design of things. We go, what are you as a human? What do humans do? What are you for? That's a hard question, right? Now you go, oh wait, nobody's ever asked that. Because if the eye is to see, well, great. Are you to see? No. To see, that's what the eye is for, that you have. But what do you do? That is, what do humans do? We are thinking things, we are reasoning things, and we reason towards other ends, such as the greatest good, towards happiness, towards the virtuous life. Happiness, according to Aristotle, has to do with what? Virtue. It has to do with the complete life. Happiness, Aristotle would say, is that greatest good, that thing that is desired for itself and nothing else. Okay? Why are you going to school? To get a degree. Why are you going to get a degree? To get a job. Why do you need a job? So you can pay the bills. What bills are you going to pay? Well, you're going to pay your home bill and your electricity bill and all that. Why are you going to pay that? So you could have a comfortable life and put the other stuff you have, the other instrumental goods. An instrumental good is something that is good for something else. An intrinsic good is good for itself, like happiness is good for itself. It's intrinsically good. Instrumental goods like money, as you say, money is good, but it is only good as much as it buys you stuff. So in Germany, in the Weimar Republic, when the German Deutschmark, they had printed so much of it because they needed to pay their bills. The bills came primarily from war debts from World War I. So they printed so much of it. What happened to the this Deutschmark?
Devalued.
It devalues. Yeah. When you have one of something, it has a value. When you double that, it cuts the value of this in half. Okay? The more money we print, the less it is worth. Does that make sense? So right now they're saying, oh, we need to spend $2 trillion on COVID relief. Right, where you get this money? Well, you either take it from you, me, and everybody else. We all pile it together in the form of taxes, and now we can redistribute that money after you've contributed it through taxes. We redistributed it to the areas we think need to be spent upon. Does that make sense? We could tax you another way. We could just print it. And when we print it, it's like taking the money that you have. Do you have any money in your pocket? Pretend you do. And it takes the value from it. The government doesn't have to take the dollar bill from you. It can print another one. And it takes the value of your dollar. Make sense? Okay. So, happiness is something that's intrinsic, something you want for itself. Money is something you want for other things. Okay? And those other things, somewhere down the line, can money buy you happiness? It could buy you all sorts of stuff. It could buy you cars. It could buy you houses, right? Drugs that will give you pleasure. But is that happiness? Well, he talks about happiness, Aristotle does. And so that becomes part of what our government is. This idea that man is created for something, for reasoning, and we reason towards virtue and happiness. And part of our nature is to do certain things. And you cannot take that away, like you cannot take the fourth side of a square away and it still be a square. Does that make sense? So when you talk about nature, if you were a human, what is it that I could take away from you that would make you non-human? Where your humanity comes with certain things that are what are called inalienable. There are things called rights. Rights have to do with your nature, your whatness, according to natural law. They are not according to the government. The government does not give you these rights. The government doesn't give you your nature. The government does, look at me, the government does not decide if you're human. Does that make sense? Man does not determine if you're human. We recognize humanity and we act according to that reality, or we deny that reality. And the history of mankind has been to deny the reality of the nature of man and violate his rights. That is, to pretend a square is a non-square and treat it as though it is something other than a square. To treat man as though man is a beast of burden rather than a human being with rights that are designed to act and reason towards happiness. Now, Locke decided to discuss this, and there are certain things that he determined that were inalienable rights, such as the right to life, liberty, and he talked about property. Thomas Jefferson will later on, perhaps you heard of him, author of the Declaration of Independence, really he virtually word for word plagiarized part of the Second Treatise of Understanding our government. And he writes that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, such as the right to life, the right to liberty, and the right to pursue happiness. There's a difference between having the right to happiness and the right to pursuing it. Because if you have the right to happiness, then somebody owes happiness to you. But I can't make you happy, can I? The government cannot make you happy, can enforce happiness upon you, but you can pursue the virtuous life in the attempt to reach happiness. That good that is good for itself. This is one of the reasons we break away from Britain. Taxing is one thing, but these violations of the rights of man. See, the king believed that there were what's called the divine rights of kings. That the rights were bestowed upon him by God, the divine rights of kings, and that he had the right to rule over society as he saw fit. And the liberals, now let's not confuse that with Democrats versus Republicans. All Republicans and liberals, or Democrats and Republicans, are liberals, right? Traditionally they are. Some would argue now that the Democratic Party has given up liberalism and has embraced socialism and communism. But traditionally, the Democrats and the Republicans are liberals in the sense where they value individual human rights. They see the human individual as valuable, as designed, having the purpose of living, right? Pursuing liberty, having liberty, free agency, that is, a free will to pursue the good, and the desire and design to pursue happiness, that greatest good, okay? So we've got these colonists, they come here, eventually this philosophical movement takes hold, there's a break with Britain, right? And they tell them, we say, hey, we're declaring our independence from you. We are leaving you, and we are going to give you several reasons for this. And he starts off by saying, right, that all men are created. If men are not created, then they're not created equal. Does that make sense? Now, there's a big hoodoo about, America, the American founders owning slaves. Right. America inherited slavery. America also ended slavery. And why did America end slavery? Because it was more profitable to the white guys who owned slaves? No, quite the opposite. Because it would cost them no blood? No. We fought a great civil war amongst ourselves, and it was the greatest number of men in America who have died in a war over this issue. The underlying reasons had to do with those principles that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. What does it mean to be unalienable? You cannot take it away. So like we talk about illegal aliens, right? And we're not talking about extraterrestrials from outer space. What are we talking about? Well, alien just means somebody from somewhere else. So like when I go to England, which I've never been, I'd like to go, I'll be an alien, whether I be legal or illegal. Illegal aliens just means you are from somewhere else. It's not derogatory. It's just extraterrestrial means you're from. All extraterrestrials, those things from another world, another planet, are aliens because they come from somewhere else. But not all aliens are from other planets. Most aliens on Earth are from other states, countries, or the like. Okay? Illegal aliens are those who don't have the legal right to enter a country. So when I go to Canada and overstay my visa, I'm an illegal alien. When I go to Germany and do the same, I'm an illegal alien. It doesn't just happen in America. It happens all over the world, and even Americans do it. Okay? To be alienated means to be separated. To be unalienable, or as some of the language says, inalienable, it's spelled both ways, okay? Means you cannot separate it. You cannot separate the fourth side of a square and it still be the same thing. What would it be if you took the fourth side of a square away? It would be a non-square for sure, right? So all squares have four sides. It is unalienable or inalienable, the four lateral part of it, okay? Humans, according to Thomas Jefferson, John Locke, Shannon Holzer, that'd be me, have unalienable rights. The right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You can't take it away. It's part of your nature. He's making a philosophical argument, not an emotional argument.